Today, I want to take a closer look at my favorite semiconductor company, Nvidia. And more importantly, a topic that doesn't really get discussed too much, right? When we talk about Nvidia, we take a closer look at the data center market, we take a closer look at the gaming GPUs, we look at things like the automotive market. But there is an industry that Nvidia doesn't get too much love, and that is the healthcare market. The great thing for investors is today, Nvidia was at a conference event that dealt with the healthcare space, and NVIDIA believes that the healthcare market will actually be their biggest business in the next few years. So, on today's episode, it's probably going to be a little bit longer than my typical NVIDIA episodes, but we're going to do a nice deep dive on everything that they showcase during this conference. And even for me, a big NVIDIA person, the healthcare market is such a small, unknown niche. And after this conference, my level of knowledge increased dramatically. Obviously, I'm still a beginner here in the healthcare market, but I can already get the excitement and see what's really the big deal behind this space. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So we can see on March 5th of 2024, NVIDIA was at an annual healthcare conference. So the first question was pretty much about a 101 of how NVIDIA was in the healthcare market and how long they've been doing it and what kind of influence we can see in the future. So Kimberly mentions that this is her 16th year at NVIDIA, and they've been working in healthcare space for roughly 1.5 decades. So roughly so pretty much since she started. And that's pretty insane. And it kind of continues to showcase to us how NVIDIA is one of those companies that doesn't follow the trend. They saw this trend coming multiple decades ago, very similar to the AI, where we saw the big change in 2012, but only until 2022, 2023 was when we started to see things like ChatGPT, OpenAI, and other forms of large language models. So right off the bat, we can continue to see how NVIDIA has focused in a lot of these markets in the future. And one of the reasons that this happened was in past, the CEO made a decision to kind of get into different markets and put someone in charge to say, hey, look, Kimberly, take a closer look at how we can use our accelerated computing right now in 2012 in the healthcare market in the future. Kimberly mentions that generative AI now is creating the opening of an industry that's going to be the world's largest technology industry. And that is the healthcare, that will be the largest technology industry in the coming years. And she kind of gives you an example of where they're super, super excited. One is the area of medical devices in medtech. Every single day, new sensor technologies are born or new applications are being able to be built with imaging. Another industry that's very important is the robotic surgery, where you now have actual robots assisting the surgery and being able to use imaging and artificial intelligence to augment what the clinicians are seeing in real time. They're also pioneering, very similar to what we've seen all around, a full stack computing platform for being able to do real-time AI called Holoscan, NVIDIA Holoscan. So I wanted to take a closer look at here. NVIDIA Holoscan is the sensor processing platform that streamlines the development and deployment of AI and high-performance computing applications. So the benefits of Holoscan are, one, the first is sensor processing. Because NVIDIA has such a strong computational power, you need to be able to get all this image and video time and video data that the device is seeing and process it one way or another. After processing it, you need to be able to kind of get an action or a reaction out of that data. And that needs to happen in very low latency, as some of these things need to happen almost on a real-time basis. So NVIDIA's benefits also have the low latency. Outside of that, because NVIDIA has created this kind of platform, they do have various kind of reference AI solutions that can be used in various different industries. Here we can see with Holoscan, developers can build medical devices that take AI applications directly to the operating room, processing stream sensor data for AI inferencing that helps clinical teams make patient-specific decisions and recommendations. And once validated and verified, this real-time AI application can be deployed to medical devices. And one of the big medical devices that NVIDIA has created is their NVIDIA IGX Orin, which is the most optimized NVIDIA platform, offering a complete industrial-grade solution with enterprise-level software and long-term commercial support. And here we can see NVIDIA's IGX Orin, and pretty much, right, when you're dealing with something like this, you need to have certain forms of certifications that NVIDIA has for the healthcare market and other types of industries that need that type of reliability and security. So now that we know a little bit about NVIDIA's Holoscan, Kimberly goes on to tell us a little bit more of how we should see the healthcare market in forms of robotic. Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you all for the amazing support we are getting in this channel. We're closing into 40,000 subs. That is insane. So if you haven't and you are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support this channel a little bit more, check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. And she mentions that self-driving car and a surgical robot are actually very, very similar in the job and the tasks that they do in forms of computing platforms that they need. And this is something that we've been hearing a lot when we think of autonomous robots. We should also translate that information into other types of robotic industries. And that's something Elon Musk has mentioned plenty of times. And pretty simple, right? I mean, when you think of an autonomous vehicle, it needs to react quickly to some form of obstacle or some form of data. And that's exactly what a surgical robot needs to do. So, in forms of just the healthcare market, the main ones that we see right now are medical devices, imaging, medtech. Surgical robots are obviously exciting areas for NVIDIA, but in the next phase is digital surgery coming. And another area that they're super excited about is artificial and accelerated computing in drug discovery. And they mentioned that the main thing that has completely shifted a lot of these industries is three things have happened that have created this vast opportunity. The first thing is you're seeing a lot of companies creating vast amounts of data. You have so many companies out there creating data sets for the kind of biomedical field, for the biology field in general. The second thing is you're having GPTs. And obviously, when you hear GPT, you think of OpenAI, but GPT is a term that's meant for generative pre trained transformers. And that's pretty much the ability to learn from that large amount of data, right? If you have large amount of data, that's pretty cool, but you need to have a way to learn from it. And that's pretty much what a GPT does. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. We have seen an amount of GPTs being created that are able to take that large amount of data and learn from it. Now, the third thing that you need to kind of really evolve in this market is strong computational power, right? There's no point in having all this data if you really can't compute it or process it. You can't really have all these GPTs if you can't train it in a quick amount of time. And right now, NVIDIA has created these supercomputers that are able to handle the computational needs for all these industries. Now, the next question was pretty much understanding the current size of NVIDIA's healthcare market, and I was pretty impressed by this. Kimberly mentions that they talked about it recently, and the healthcare business is over $1 billion, both direct and indirect through partners. And what do they mean by indirect? Indirect is they kind of measure cloud service providers and see what kind of companies are using these cloud service providers. So if a health company was using, for example, Microsoft's clouding solutions for medical needs, it is included in this $1 billion business. That's indirect. Direct is when you have a healthcare business buying NVIDIA's solution right off the bat and building it to their on-premise or their location to train whatever sort of AI model or create whatever form of medical device. So we learned a little bit about NVIDIA's Holoscan, right? Which dealt a lot with the imaging and the medical devices. We also learned about their hardware solution, which was the overall IGX platform, which was regulated for the type of needs that this industry needs. The third thing they talk about is NVIDIA Clara. And NVIDIA Clara is a suite of computing platform, software, and services that power AI solutions for healthcare and life science, from imaging and instruments to genomics and drug discovery. So NVIDIA is with these, NVIDIA starts licensing these software and this platform because developers are going to be using it on a yearly basis, and NVIDIA needs to keep this updated and keep working on these software stacks. And the great thing here is you're having a lot of startup companies, a lot of big player companies developing on NVIDIA Clara. So this becomes kind of a norm. It becomes part of the ecosystem. So in the future, when more solutions come out, guess under what platform is going to be created. Clara, because that's where all the developers believe is the best time of use right now. They mentioned that right now they have about 3,000 AI healthcare startups in their inception program, and they are supporting them all over the world. And that bodes really well, right? Because if you have all these startups, like I mentioned, it means that all these companies are developing on NVIDIA's ecosystem. And if they are successful, we're going to continue to see growth in NVIDIA's AI hardware, AI software for the healthcare market, healthcare infrastructure in general. But the more important thing is you're building this knowledge base for, let's say that AI startup fails and they go to another company. They already know the knowledge of NVIDIA's solutions. So it's just going to continue to spread like wildfire, and more companies are going to end up using NVIDIA's ecosystem. One thing that Kimberly believes right now is in the cups of technology is new models called vision language models. And to some extent, we've kind of been in the large language models before. And large language models are pretty much with heavy data sets in forms of text to some extent. But Kimberly believes that right now we're seeing it where these language models are more data based on images, on videos. This is pretty interesting. And I do believe we're going to hear a little bit more about this during their GTC event, which is less than almost 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be covering that pretty well. So make sure to tune in to the channel. And this, in my opinion, on a side note, also bodes well for a lot of robotics companies like Tesla, as we are kind of transforming into this vision language model market. And right now, there's some studies, in fact, that Kimberly mentions that there's new research where you can watch a surgery and predict what's going to happen in the next 20 seconds. So imagine that decision making that's going to transform within the walls of the operating room. The whole operating room is going to become an AI. So this is why Kimberly is very bullish in the overall healthcare market, where there's going to be huge opportunities in the future. An analyst talks a little bit of, hey, what are some companies that are currently using NVIDIA's kind of medical solutions or partnering up with NVIDIA one way or another? And Kimberly mentions that one of their early adopters of NVIDIA HoloScan was Medtronic, a very big player in the equipment medical field. The very first application is their FDA approved AI colonoscopy. They published last year that the AI allows them to see 50% more polyps. I don't know exactly what that is, but obviously seeing a 50% improvement bodes really well. Seeing that this is FDA approved also bodes well. And it kind of just reminds us as investors that this is one that's going to be an industry that's heavily regulated. So it's going to take some time before we really start to see some progress here. But eventually, once you start to see all these applications, all these solutions get approved, you can definitely see a nice boost in revenue in the future, as you start to see probably an increase in volumes of equipments and so on and so forth. Another thing about AI and AI solutions that we can continue to benefit from is the ability to get to the market a lot faster. And they mentioned a pretty cool company called Moon Surgical, which is a startup in France, that they gone from a very young company in 2019 is when they started, and they have approved essentially robotic assistant devices on market built on NVIDIA HoloScan in just a few 18 months to 2 years. So this is something that probably back then used to take about 5 to 8 years to get into the market, because you had to build the compute platform, because you had to build the software stack, because you had to build a lot of these AI and infrastructure and software and ecosystem solutions that NVIDIA has already built for you. So we can see NVIDIA is definitely it's providing a great solution for the healthcare industry. And this is pretty much what they're doing in every industry as well, from cybersecurity, from the overall financial market. And we're seeing right now in obviously the robotics market, and the list goes on and on. The next thing they talk about is Biion Nemo. And Biion Nemo is a generative AI platform for drug discovery that simplifies and accelerates the training of models using your own data and scaling the deployments of models for drug discovery. So obviously building these large language models, you're using again NVIDIA's software solutions, but more importantly, you're going to be using NVIDIA's infrastructure to train those large models. And they actually gave us an example of a company. They mentioned Amgen. I'm probably butchering the name. They're a company that deals a lot in the antibody data, and they have a lot of proprietary and very useful data. And right now they wanted to create a foundation model so they can think differently about how they do the drug discovery process. They thought that they were going to take 6 months to a year to develop their first foundation models. They actually developed 5 models in about 4 weeks on their platform. And with these foundational models right now, they're getting reduced time of design of maybe new medicine. Obviously, not the medicines don't all work, but they mentioned that the design time has gone from 2 years to now 9 months. And they're also increasing the clinical likelihood from 50% to 90%. So we can definitely see how the healthcare market, with big pharma being a huge spender overall, can definitely become a big opportunity for Nvidia in the future. So those are all the main points that we had about Nvidia here, and I personally learned a lot from this conference, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. I also showcase a lot of my thought process of where we can see this. So if you guys enjoy the episode, please make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. I will be covering the GTC event, which is happening on March 18th. They're going to talk about the healthcare market, about the cybersecurity market, about the gaming market, and I'm going to provide all the data that I can. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.